I just made it to the top for this awesome view.
Forest photography can be extremely challenging as a beginner. But with a few tips, it doesn't have to be.
Hey guys, it has been almost 10 years since I've been here last. At that time, I took some awful photos that I was extremely proud of. So I hope that we can do something better this time.
One of the things that I find is extremely important is to use the dominating local elements wherever you are. We have this fissure valley with a small stream running through it. Besides being a dominating element, it also helps with adding a great leading line through the forest. It would be a shame of thinking of forest photography just as the trees and not making use of the stream. It dominates the forest and the entire valley.
Now, one of the things I struggled with for a very long time when doing forest photography was all the chaos that you have in the forest floor. And one of the main reasons was actually because I had my tripod very low to the ground. After I started raising my tripod, a lot of this chaos goes away, and it also helps you with one other thing. When you have a higher perspective, then you don't get as much of the sky within the frame. And this is also something to avoid if you don't want to have a ton of contrast in the shot.
You simply gotta love these fall colors.
They're absolutely amazing. So one of the things I personally find that's very helpful in forest photography is that if you find a hero, like an old tree with a character, then it really helps, like almost damage control in order to get all of the chaos out of the way, because the forest floor is extremely chaotic. You got branches going from left to right, and if there's nothing for the eye to latch onto, then everything will look like a big mess. But if you have this dominating character, then your eyes will go straight to that and almost not notice so much what's happening at the other parts of the frame. So that's at least one element in getting rid of all the chaos. One of the most challenging parts in forest photography is creating enough depth with your composition. But luckily there are a few techniques that we can use. For instance, the most obvious one is to use leading lines like rivers, like the stream behind me, or pathways, or fallen tree branches. They can act as brilliant leading lines and lead the audience attentions to look at your main subjects. So if you can find those, please use them. Your images will benefit a lot from it. Also, try to use all the elements that you actually have in a forest, like all the vertical trees or large rocks and boulders. They can act as excellent like framing devices. So you frame like the edges of the composition, and it can make the composition much more intimate and focused. Another thing to consider is whether you have balance in the frame. So for instance, if you have a large tree on one side, then it would be ideal if you have a large boulder or like something to balance the composition a bit in the other side. It's not just elements, physical elements that you can use, it's also colors. So if you have a patch of yellow or red color, reddish color on the ride, it has quite a lot of visual pull, and this means that it can balance out a very heavy and large boulder or tree trunk on the other side. One of the absolute worst things that you can have in your composition is visible shadows, because the scene is already cluttered enough. So all these shadows from branches and tree trunks and leaves and whatever, they just clutter the scene even more. So for that reason, or that's one of the reasons, that I prefer to shoot backlit as much as possible. When you shoot backlit, you don't see where the shadows fall. You don't get them in your composition, and additionally, you get a little more like flattering light, and also a little more depth in the roll-off between the backlights and when it turns into shadows. But there's an issue here that you need to take care of, and that is, don't get too much contrast in the scene, because when you get backlighting, you also have like a lot of tonal contrast, and this can be really difficult to work with.
Tomorrow is the big day where I hopefully can get some gorgeous sunrise shots of the gorge and the entire forest. But before stopping for today, I get a chance of using the brilliant light for some rather common wildlife near the parking lot. If you have the possibility of getting a higher vantage point of the forest, you can get some amazing views. The only problem is getting up there.
I just made it to the top, just in time for this awesome view. I really thought I missed it. This is absolutely amazing. I'm really stoked. You got these fall-colored leaves in the foreground, and then the Rift Valley that we walked in yesterday, and then you got these layers of haze or mist in the background, combined with the amazing sunrise. I probably don't need to brag at this, but now I'm already bracketing everything, so I'll just keep on doing it, and then I'll see whatever works. That was 70 millimeters. Now I'll take it a bit wider. So there's this irritating branch to the left side of the frame. It's just peeking in from one side. It's a bit irritating. I will see if I can find just a little composition just a few meters down here, and see if we can avoid the branch. I nearly fell over my tripod here. This is absolutely worth the long and quite intense hike up here. When I'm just shooting landscape, just shooting images, I have the record button set to removing all displays except for the function button. And sometimes you think you're clear of branches, but actually these small indicators here sometimes hide something very frustrating, like a branch peeking in from the side. So you can go to the function menu and set the record button. Actually, I can show you right now. There it is. I just had to find it. You can see the record button. It said, you would think it was off, but it actually live view information display off. So I find this very useful. But just to click the record button, and then you have actually how your images will look back at your computer without the irritating display. So of course you can toggle it through the menu here, or the display menu, but I just find it way easier. If I actually want to record something, I will switch over to the normal recording mode because I need to change some settings anyway. So it makes no sense for me to have like the record button active as like a quick record, because I don't use recording video that way.
After getting as much as possible out of the sunrise, I walk back to the stream to get a few more shots while there's still some great light. Forest photography is actually quite forgiving when it comes to light. One of the best times to go is right after rain, or while it rains, or it's misty or foggy. These atmospheric conditions allow you to see and separate the layers in the composition. It reveals the vibrant colors and textures of the leaves, bark and fungi. The moisture can also create this glistering effect, adding depth and interest to your photos. The combination of rain, mist and fog can produce dramatic lighting conditions. Soft, diffused light can create this kind of mystical and ethereal atmosphere. This can be particularly effective in dense forest where the fog can obscure the distant landscape and create this sense of isolation. Even though you don't have any clouds, you can often work a little bit longer in the forest before the sun becomes too strong because of the overhanging leaves that acts as a big diffuser. That's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video or you feel like you've learned something, please give it a like or maybe even subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.